What is up, YouTube and Spotify? We haven't forgotten about you. It's me, your boy Ronnoc. What is up, guys? It's me, your boy Ronnoc. How you guys doing? We got a very special guest. If any of you know, I'm a senior this year. I got literally one semester left, and well, last year I let it slip. I let it slip to one of my teachers that, well, here's the thing. I got a show on YouTube, and you guys probably know about it. It's called Tired Granola Bar Podcast. What? Yeah, Anyways, today, over a year later, I think it's a year later, I revealed it my junior year, and I'm a senior now. I agreed to finally get him on. He begged for almost a year, and I was able to get him on. So, well, not like get him on, but like, he was able to come on my show. He's the one who should be begging. Anyways, today's interview, thank you guys for checking this interview out. Today's interview is with my teacher from last year, Murrillo. Mr. Murrillo, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. It's currently 5:38 when I'm editing, and it's just the joy of my life. I just want to say thank you guys very much. I'm not going to mention Will Wood, because that's getting a little bit old, even I'll admit that. But if you can, please subscribe and like. If you haven't known, for anyone who really cares, it's not like a celebratory thing, but we're like at, I believe we're close to 70 episodes at this point. And I have made a decision that basically when I hit 100, when we hit the big 100, I'm going to be editing together a marathon. And possibly trying to do an intro. I'm going to try to make a cool little intro out of the past interviews and videos I made in the past. I just think it would be kind of interesting, kind of cool maybe. Maybe I'm stupid. That is a definite yes. But anyways, I'm not going to get... You're basically probably going to skip over this anyways. I don't know why I did this, but... Basically, enjoy this interview with my teacher from last year. Have a good day, and yeah, I'll see you next Wednesday or whenever I do upload. If you guys want to come on, give me an email. It's in the bio. Anyways, peace. Later, guys. Thank you for doing this interview.
No problem. Thanks for letting me do it.
Yeah, no problem. Like, obviously we all know who you are, but like, can you introduce yourself just to get an idea of who you are besides the teacher?
Besides the teacher, well, my name is Mr. Matt Murillo. I've been a teacher for 20 years. What else do you want to know? I'm a husband. I have a wife. We've been married for almost 20 years. I have 2 kids. I have a daughter who's a freshman at Iowa State, and I have a son who is a junior at Waukee High School.
Oh, so why are you into teaching?
Well, before I started teaching, I was a coach. So I coached boys basketball, and I coached softball, and I got into that kind of right after college, even a little bit during college, just as like a summer job to make a little extra money. And then I kind of got more and more into it, and as I continued to do it, I'm like, I kind of like working with high school age kids, and so why don't I just go back to school and get my teaching endorsement so that I can be a high school teacher and coach.
It's like a substitute, or like what did you mean? Like you said, you only stayed for like you originally only going to stay for like a little bit.
Well, no, I decided I was just teaching, or I was coaching, kind of on the side. I had like a job outside of the school, and then as I was coaching, I was like, you know what, I want to do that. I want to be, working with high school students full time, and so that's when I decided to go back to school so that I could be a full time teacher. And, have a teaching job and coach and do all that stuff, yeah.
I apologize, but you said you went back to school for, what was the original, besides, was it? Anything?
Oh, yeah, so I have a degree in business from Drake University.
Oh, okay.
I have a degree in finance, and so... I graduated from Drake University, so right out of high school, I went to Drake University. I majored in business finance. And so I had a degree. I graduated in 4 years from Drake University, had a degree in finance. And so that's a good question. I was kind of working just in business. I did some work with nonprofit companies and things like that. And then, it was just kind of too hard to have a job when I was coaching. So, I coached boys basketball, which kind of went from, October, November until March. And then I would pick up, probably late April, early May, and start coaching softball, and that would go through most of the summer. And so it started to get harder and harder and harder to kind of have a job outside of school, in the private sector, working in business.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of when I decided, if I'm going to do this coaching thing, I might as well just be a teacher. So, yeah.
Why did you get into business?
That's just kind of something I was interested in right out of high school. I took some business classes. My dad was an accountant. And so I kind of just had exposure to that when I was young. And, I'm old. I'm 52. I grew up in the 80s, and kind of was just interested in business and stocks and stuff like that. So kind of thought that's where I would end up. But, yeah.
Besides, helping children now, of course, that's, every teacher's response. If you're looking at the raw details, what's the, reason you did, you're staying pretty much today? I was helping the kids out because that's every teacher's.
Right. Well, I think one of the things working with kids who have IEPs in the last 20 years, I have gotten to teach lots of different things. Mm-hmm. So when I first started 20 years ago, when I first decided that I was going to teach, I thought I would teach business classes like Mr. Hope, teaches business classes.
I don't think I know him, but yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Hope teaches, and there's a new teacher that does that. And when I first started here, there were 3 teachers that taught business, business, computer classes, stuff like that.
Well, back when it was still kind of becoming a thing.
Right. And so I thought that's what I would actually what I did my student teaching in was I did my student teaching at Lincoln, and I taught a keyboarding class. We used to teach a keyboarding class in high school. That's how old I am. We used to teach a keyboarding class, and then I taught a couple of accounting classes. And so that's what I thought I would teach. And then there weren't really any jobs available, and I was coaching softball at Roosevelt at the time. And so the principal really wanted me to be in the school and be the coach. And she said, the only job I really have is a job as a special ed teacher teaching math. And so I did that. And so then once I got into the special ed, I enjoyed the special ed. I like working with kids who maybe need a little extra attention. And then, like I said, I've gotten to teach lots of different subjects. So I started teaching math. And then a couple of years later, they had me teach English, which I didn't love, but it was okay. Then a couple of years later, they had me do science, which was okay, I didn't love. And then a couple of years later, I got to do social studies, which I really like social studies. So I got to teach government and econ, and I really enjoyed teaching government and econ. And so then a couple of years after that, they asked me to do math again. So that's what I've continued to do. So I've gotten to do lots of different subject areas. So that's kind of kept me into it as well.
One of the things they mentioned for right now, I believe you're still working as a math teacher and everything. Mm-hmm. And my mom, she's a teacher, so so she does moves around the topic. Do you have to study for that, or do you have to or do you just do they just place you in? Because I assume you would have to study and know what you actually are doing.
Yeah, when they changed me, there was a lot of preparation involved. When I taught econ and government, I really like economics, and so I took a lot of economics because I was a business major. I took quite a bit of economics in college, so that was a pretty easy subject for me to teach. Government, I had to go back and kind of relearn things like that. When I first started, so this is my 5th year teaching geometry now, since I started doing the math thing again. And you're right, there's a lot of relearning that I had to do. I can't just walk into the room and start teaching geometry. I had to kind of...
They don't just give you random notes, and you don't just play along, basically.
No, I mean, obviously we have the curriculum that we use, but I would have to go in, and luckily I used to work with Mr. Arns, who's a really good math teacher. So I got to do a couple years with Mr. Arns, and that really helped me because I would watch what he did and then try and replicate that, and then I would go back to my room and try and reteach myself the geometry as well. So now, year 5, I'm much better than I was year 1, and so I think for most teachers that's the case, though.
When you're just jumping in, or let's say even just to go back to the first year, was it tricky just getting into when you became an actual teacher? Was that tricky? Was it?
Yes.
Did you get into it pretty good?
It was tricky. Number one, like I said, I thought I was going to be a business teacher, and they hired me as a special ed teacher, and I kind of really didn't even know all the details about what that was about, and they kind of just threw me in and said, okay, you're teaching math. It wasn't like it is now where we have, now we have a curriculum and we have learning targets and we know what we're supposed to teach. Back then it was just like, here's math, you're going to teach math. And then luckily there were some other teachers around who had taught special ed, and they're like, here, we'll help you out here. Here's what you should do, here's what we do. And so I kind of, got some assistance from other teachers. But when I first started, it was not like it was now. It was kind of just like, hey, here you go. And so yeah, there was a learning curve for sure.
Has this job been as good as you dreamed to be in the beginning?
Yeah, I think so. In the beginning, I didn't really know how long I was going to teach too. I thought I wanted to be an athletic director because of the coaching thing. I thought I wanted to be an athletic director, and to be an athletic director, you got to have your teaching endorsement, and then you also have to go back to school and get like a master's degree and get an administrative endorsement license. And so I kind of thought that I would do that. That would be the path that I would take. But then I met my wife, and then shortly after that we had a couple kids. I don't think, because athletic director is a big commitment, and there's a lot of sports and activities that you're responsible for monitoring, supervising, and being in charge of, and there's a lot of time away from home. And so once I kind of got married and had a couple kids, I was like, you know what, I don't think that I want to be an athletic director. I don't want to be gone 3 or 4 or 5 nights a week away from my family. So I just decided to stick in the classroom, and I'm really happy that I did. I'm only have a few more years until I can retire, so this will be what I do till I retire.
With being a coach and like being a teacher, what both are their highlights from each other?
Well, I think they're a lot alike. I mean, as a coach, you're a teacher. Coaches are teachers. They're just teaching a sport. And so I think the most important thing, I think coaching and being a coach before as a teacher helped me become a teacher. Because when you're coaching, you have to be able to explain things and break things down. You're breaking down more physical skills than mental skills like you would in a classroom. Understanding how to break things down and teach them to athletes, I think, also translates to the classroom, and how can I think about breaking things down, whether it's geometry or government or whatever. How do I break it down, and how do I explain it so that kids can understand it? So I think the coaching and the teaching kind of go together.
You said you had kids. But what is having kids like, since with teaching and everything? Like, how has that all like been together?
Good. That's kind of what led me. I don't coach anymore, so I retired from coaching after the summer of 2018. At that time, my son was 9 and my daughter was about 11, and my son played baseball, and my daughter was playing soccer, and I remember I was coaching a softball game. I was coaching at Dowling Catholic at the time. And I was coaching a softball game, but at the same time my son was playing baseball, my daughter was playing soccer. And I was missing their baseball and soccer games so that I could coach somebody else's kids.
So that kind of goes back to like the you want to be there for the kids.
Yes, and so it was at that point I was like, I don't think that I want to do this anymore. And I said, I thought, my kids are only this age one time, and so if I miss my son's first home run or I miss my daughter scoring goals, I don't ever get to see that again. And so that's when I made the decision that, you know what, I still got the teaching thing, I still get to work with kids, but the coaching, I can kind of give it up for a while. And if I want to go back to it in a few years, like I said, my son's a junior, so he's got 2 more years before he goes off to college. I can go back to coaching if I want to. I've thought about it. I probably will. If the right opportunity presents itself. But the reason that I decided to stop coaching is so that I could spend more time with my kids. And the teaching thing is great because as far as like spending time with my kids, we still get Thanksgiving break at the same time. We get Christmas break at the same time. We get summers at the same time. So teaching, I think, was really good in allowing me to spend more time with my family and be a good dad and not be doing something else.
Is maybe like coaching something you want to do, maybe like in retirement or something like that?
Yeah, maybe. Even before I retire, I think I have, at least 6 or 7 years of teaching left before I can think about retiring. And so, I would, if I had the right opportunity in the right school, in the right sport and all that stuff, yeah, I would coach after I'm retired. Yeah, I would even maybe even sub. A lot of retired teachers go back and sub. You can kind of pick and choose when you want to work and when you don't want to work.
Yeah.
If I want to work on a Monday, I'll work on a Monday. If I want to sleep in and not work on a Monday, I just say, I'm not going to work today. So I'm not somebody who can, even if I retire, who can just sit around and do nothing. I get too bored too easy. Like, even during the summer, like, now that I'm not coaching, luckily my son plays baseball, so we go to all his baseball games. And my daughter, just graduated last year, and she played soccer. And so even though I wasn't coaching, I coached my son. After I had retired from coaching high school, I still coached my son's teams. So I just helped coach my son's teams, and then I would go to my daughter's soccer games. So I was still involved in sports. Now it's more of a spectator because I'm not coaching my son since he's in high school. I just go watch him play. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm not somebody who can sit around and do nothing. So luckily, with my kids being active and playing sports, I got to go watch them and be doing stuff. But once they're done and gone, if I just, summer break starts and I go home, it'll probably be a couple weeks of, hey, I need to relax after a long school year. And then after that, I'll be stir crazy. I'll be like, okay, I got to do something. I got to get up and I got to move around. I got to, So I could definitely see myself coaching or finding some kind of summer job in the future. Yeah.
If I can ask, what's your daughter going to college for?
She is undeclared major right now, but she thinks she wants to do maybe like public relations or marketing type things.
So she's getting the mandatory classes out of the way now, basically.
Yeah, she's taking some classes in the area where she thinks she wants to go, whether see if she really likes it or not, and so. She has liked a couple of the classes that she's taken, and so I think that's where she wants to go. But yeah, she's doing a lot of the mandatory classes that everybody has to take, and then maybe sprinkling a few of them in there of things that she thinks she wants to do to find out if that's really what she actually wants to do. Yeah. So.
For my memory, I think I've been in your class twice, maybe my sophomore year once, mm-hmm. and then junior year last year. Mm-hmm. From your memory, what was I like during those years? Have I changed really?
Well, I haven't had you in class in a couple years, but I remember that you always worked hard. You always asked questions. You were trying your best. So I guess I don't know what you're like now, but I
was only in I was in your class last the year, I think.
It was 2 years. Wasn't it 2 years ago you had geometry with me?
That was sophomore year.
Sophomore year.
And then junior year, I was in your class again.
You were? What did we have last year? What did you have last year?
I know we were down underneath the stairs by those doors that whenever somebody opened them up,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think for a semester, and then you got switched second semester, didn't you? To Mr. I don't remember.
Me.
Yeah.
But I didn't know if you. I didn't know if you had a different perspective, but basically the same thing.
Yeah.
No. I think it's been... How many years have you been teaching? 12 years at this point?
This is my 20th year teaching.
So you've been at least for a full generation pretty much teaching.
Yeah, I guess you could say that, yeah.
Yeah. Have there been any changes? Or, what's that been like? You've already talked about, you basically... It was tricky in the beginning, but you kind of got a handle. But, I would assume there have been, with, technology advancing and, just... kids being, it's not the same since millennials were around. What's that been like?
It's funny. I was thinking about this. So, when I started teaching, there was no smartphones. There was no iPhones. There was no Androids. There was nothing, anything like that. So, and then, in the last, 10 years or so, smartphones have started to become an issue. And now with the new law that you can't have smartphones in class, what I have found is things kind of have come back around. So it used to be students that maybe weren't as engaged, didn't like school as much. For a while, they would just get on their phone and they wouldn't, bother somebody, right? Now they can't get on their phone, and so they're back to kind of when I started, and they'll just start talking again. So it's kind of a different, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that is a distraction. So there wasn't that distraction initially. And so a student who kind of struggled and didn't want to do the work, and you kind of had to really kind of push them along to help them, they would, talk in class or be doing, antsy and stuff.
Well, then you had a few years there where they were on their phone, and so they didn't really bother anybody. They just kind of stayed to themselves, and you'd have to repeatedly ask them to get off their phone. And now we've kind of come back to, can't be on my phone anymore. Now I'm going to start talking a little bit more. So it is just a different type of behavior that you have to deal with as far as the phones and stuff like that go. As far as like what's changed with students, kids are kids. I mean, for the most part, like I said, there's different distractions than there were before. Technology, I think, is good in part, and I think there's some things that aren't as good with technology. It could be a distraction, and social media and things like that, I think, have had an effect on kids. Whether they're positive or negative, kind of up to the individual, but yeah.
I always did think, like, and I heard one thing, but, like, it's even before technology, people have always found a way to, like, at least be, like, not listen, like, whether it's doodling or whatever. So it doesn't always have to be, like, even though that element, even though that is a big thing, it's not just the technology. So, like, I don't think people can just say cell phones. You know, like, they can't just say that.
No, there's always been distractions. Yeah, kids who maybe struggle learning or are a little more resistant to learning are always going to find a way to try to not do the work, whether or not, like you said, it's doodling or is talking to their neighbor or, you know, whatever it is. The phone was just a different kind of distraction, different kind of thing that kept them off task. There's always ways to be off task if that's what you want to do. So
then, like, 10 years from now, there'll be, like, something that hasn't
Who knows? Yeah, in 10 years, hopefully I'll be retired. But yeah, the thing that will distract students may not even be invented yet. Who knows?
Yeah.
You know, so
it's always something.
There's always something. Yeah.
But kind of connecting this, I guess, to, like, with students. What were you like? Because like back, like, let's just say, like, middle school, high school years, because, like, or like just as back in the past, because, like, we were just talking about how distractions were always been around. But, like, what were you like as a person?
I was a pretty good student. I was a rule follower. I didn't really get in trouble. I didn't like to be. I didn't want the teacher to yell at me or single me out, and so I always followed the rules and did what I was supposed to do, and I got good grades. And so I was pretty. Looking back now, I was pretty boring. I wouldn't say boring. Not in a bad way, but just like I was.
You were average.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think as a student I was average. I think as a student I was above average, but I wasn't somebody who was going to. I wasn't somebody who was going to be doodling, or if I would have had a phone back then, I would have never been on the phone. I would have been, if I would have gotten in trouble for being on my phone, and my parents would have found out I was on my phone when I was supposed to be learning something, I'd have gotten in trouble. And so, like I said, I was a rule follower. So even though we didn't have phones back then, I wasn't the one doodling. I wasn't the one, causing distractions or talking when I wasn't supposed to talk. Now, did I ever? Of course, everybody did. But for the most part, I followed the rules. I did what I was supposed to do. I didn't get in trouble, and I was able to graduate from high school with a pretty good grade point average.
If you grew up in more like maybe a modern, I don't know if it really connects to this, but I usually been asking some, I guess, like, if you could grow up in maybe like a more modern era, like 2010s, 2020s, I guess, kids today, would you say you might came up the same person?
That's a hard question to answer. I don't know. I don't know if I would be the same person or not. I don't know how. Like I think social media affects people. I don't know whether or not my parents. Like I didn't allow my kids to have social media until I didn't even allow them to have a cell phone. Until they were in probably 6th grade or 7th grade when my daughter, it would have been 6th grade, my daughter had to ride the bus home. So when they were in elementary school, we were able to take them to school and pick them up from school, and they didn't have to ride the bus. But they got into middle school, it didn't really work for either mine or my wife's schedule, and so we were able to take them to school, but then they had to ride the bus home. And so we didn't want them to be on the bus or get home and be alone without a way to contact them, so that's when we got them a cell phone. So both of them in 6th grade, and so and we didn't let them get social media until my daughter I think was a sophomore or junior before we let her have Instagram. And my son still doesn't have it. And I don't know, it must be different for boys. He doesn't really care. He hasn't really asked about it or care about it. So I don't know back then whether or not I would have been somebody who. I don't feel like now I have social media. I have Twitter X account or whatever. I have an Instagram account. I have a TikTok account. I don't ever post
You have
stuff
TikTok?
on there. I do, but I don't ever post stuff on there. I just like watching them. The only reason I did it is because my wife started sending me TikToks, and so I would open it up, and it just was a hassle trying to watch TikToks on the internet.
It's always like
web.
a website or
It's always
something.
a website or something you have to go to. So I was like, you know what? I'll just create an account. And I go on there, and I get a lot of, like, I do all the cooking in my family. My wife doesn't like to cook, and I like to cook. And so I'll get recipes off TikTok and stuff like that. So if I was born in the 2010s or 2020s, I don't know how it would have changed me. I think it does, can change a lot of kids if you spend a lot of time on there. I would think that my parents probably would have regulated how much when I got it and how much I was able to get on it. So I don't know that it would have affected me a ton. At least I hope it wouldn't have. But yeah, that's an interesting question. I don't know that you can completely answer it, but yeah, that would be my best guess.
Because I know I had a flip phone for like until I was like in 8th grade, maybe a little ninth, and then and like I can't really say I'm different because like I don't think I'm I don't think I'm any different than any other kid. I have a phone and everything, but like but still I think that so I can't really answer that, but I just know I had one, and so it's an unanswered question, at least in my mind. So it just depends on parenting, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing. I think the parents have a huge impact on how much they let their kids get on. I wonder, I see kids doing TikToks in the hallways and putting stuff on, and that's fine. I'm not going to judge, whatever, but I feel like, you probably should be in class and not in the hallways doing dances and TikToks. Unfortunately, I think there are kids out there that maybe don't have the influence that they should have, and maybe they need some attention, or they want some attention, or they need, the clicks, or they want, they need that validation. I'm not really somebody who ever felt like I needed that, and hopefully my kids didn't either, so that's maybe why they don't, push for it as much. So
No, you don't have to answer this one because I know teachers don't really, they shouldn't talk about students out like on the internet, anything, but have you had any blooper moments or anything like you think is like over the years it's just been hilarious? You can like maybe use a fake name if anything.
Oh boy! Oh, I'm sure I've had blooper moments. I mean, there have been things that are funny, that happened in class.
Maybe like a kid fall in their chair.
No, some of it depends on the kid. I wouldn't laugh at a kid who would feel bad. You have to I think that's important. It's important that you know your students well enough to know whether or not to laugh, whether or not you have a good relationship with them. Yeah, I mean, I'll give you an example. I don't know if it's a blooper moment, but it was funny. There was a student in a class, and I won't say whether even it was a boy or girl, and it's not embarrassing. It was funny. It was fun. The student had a pack of gum kind of sitting on top of her bag, and another student grabbed a piece of gum, and she was kind of, not like mad, but just like, why did you take my gum? You took my gum. You can't take my gum. And as she was kind of fake ranting and raving, she wasn't actually mad, but she was like, don't take my gum. I came up behind her, and I grabbed her gum, and everybody in the class could see as she was complaining about somebody taking her gum, I had her pack of gum, and I was going really slow because I thought she would, I was kind of behind on the side. I thought she would see me out of the corner of her eye, so I grabbed the pack of gum, and I took a piece of gum out, and then I put the gum back in her bag, and then I slowly took the wrapper off the gum, and she still didn't see me, so I put the gum in my mouth, and everybody around her was laughing, and she's like, why are you guys laughing? This isn't funny. He took my gum. And all the while, I was repeating what I just said. So, I don't know, is that a blooper moment? I don't know. The class thought it was fun, and I wouldn't have done it if the student wouldn't have been a good sport about it, and so it was, so just little things like that. And I try and, I don't know that I make it about them as much as I would try and laugh at myself. I try and make silly jokes. I make the 6-7 jokes. All dance, kid was knocking on the door the other day, and she just kept knocking, and so every time, you're supposed to knock gently, and I'll come get the door. There's a sign on the door that says knock gently, right? She just kept knocking and knocking and knocking, and so there was kind of a beat to it, so I just started dancing. So I would say it's less about laughing at students unless they say something funny, and more about not taking yourself so seriously that you can't laugh at yourself. You know what I mean? I would rather the students, I think I'm I'm old and goofy and whatever. They can laugh at me. It's not going to hurt my feelings. So I would say I would more be inclined to do something myself that would make the students laugh at me and give the whole class a laugh rather than laugh at a student. So.
Yeah. Well, thanks for doing this. And I don't know, maybe we could do it again if I think of anything. Yeah.
Absolutely. I appreciate you asking me. You did a great job. Great questions. And if you ever have anything more you want to ask, I'm more than happy to do it again.
Maybe next semester. I don't know.
Absolutely. Yep. I'll be here.
Yeah. And I have I was able to get one unanimous question from one of the students.
Okay.
Have you ever thought about growing out your unibrow?
I wonder who that was. I used to. Yes, I have very pronounced thick eyebrows. I'm not unaware of that, and so it doesn't even bother me anymore. 20-some years ago, when I was young and single and trying to get a girlfriend and a wife, I did used to have my eyebrows waxed once a month so that they were less pronounced.